is an adventure like they've never faced before. And for that, they'll go all over the city.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, I got some thoughts on another new TMNT game this year. This has been a really interesting ride for us TMNT fans. We've been getting a lot of games lately, some really bad like Wrath of the Mutants, which is a port of an arcade game, and it's one of the worst games of the year. But funny enough, this year we also got what I think is the best ever TMNT game in Splintered Fate. And I was a big doubter of that game, but between the voice acting, the IDW comic book art style, the writing being really good, and it practically being Hades but TMNT, it was one of the best surprises of the year. And especially as a lifelong TMNT fan, I could not have been more thrilled about it. Then, a few months ago, we got an interesting announcement of this game here behind me in TMNT Mutants Unleashed. And this is pretty much a sequel to the movie that came out in theaters recently, Mutant Mayhem. And okay, look, so I know I'm a lifelong TMNT fan. I'm gonna have a lot of explaining to do this video, but I have not seen this movie because, as I'll get into with this game, I just really prefer a more mature take on the Turtles. I like the funny, goofy Turtles. They can be nice, but I grew up on 2003 Ninja Turtles. I grew up on IDW comic Ninja Turtles. I love The Last Ronin. It's my favorite comic book ever. So yeah, that's the type of Ninja Turtle I enjoy. I tolerate this style of Ninja Turtle, but when I saw the art style and the kind of teenage stuff they were doing, I was like, yeah, it's very on the nose. It's cool. There's some things I do like about it, as I'll get into with this game. But I have not seen the movie, and this is pretty much a sequel to that. And I'm kind of happy I played the game because it opened my eyes to some things that this TMNT universe is exploring that I think are actually cool, fun ideas. But to the game itself, this is one of the most surprising games I have played this year. Not just in the quality level in some areas, but this is also kind of a Persona game. Seriously, like, it has a day and night cycle, and there's a moment I burst out laughing because of the outfit you're wearing, the hand in the pocket. I went, does Leonardo think he's Joker? What am I looking at right now? Again, it's been such a weird year for TMNT games to get a game that has 2003 beat-em-up-like centric gameplay at the same time as Persona social gameplay and also Hades TMNT in two separate releases. It is such a fascinating time, but we're getting really different takes on Ninja Turtle games. They're not just beat-em-ups anymore, and as a fan of the license, I could not be more happy about that. But I have a lot to say about the game itself. I took a little trip to New Zealand to check it out early. I'm just getting back from my flight, so you'll have to pardon me. I'm a little tired right now, but hey, let's talk about TMNT Mutants Unleashed. Is it worth your dollar? I put some time in. I'm here to deliver my reviews/impressions. If you're new here and you're into nostalgic, retrospective, or as of late, very often, day one reviews, consider subscribing. Let's start off at the top. Like I said with the story, what you have here is a follow-up to the movie where they beat up Superfly, and now mutants are coexisting with humans. This is one of the cool revelations for me as someone who had not seen the movie and stepping into the game where, like, the Ninja Turtles are hanging out in public venues. They're not just hiding out in the sewers. And I like this because I never really thought the Ninja Turtles would ever be able to do that. But mutants are coexisting with humans, and it's kind of producing this very interesting plot line of, like, can we live together? Should we live together? Kind of reminds me a little bit of the X-Men, but I like that there's a little X-Men spin on the Ninja Turtles because it's a different way of thinking about the IP than I've previously ever experienced. So I really like how they're building off the movie in that way. I would have a stronger emotional attachment to some of these characters beyond just like knowing who they are if I knew their respective arcs. But I like the idea of them exploring this world because it's a really big part of the gameplay. The flow here is very interesting. It is a hybrid between Baby's first Persona as well as Baby's first 2003 TMNT game. Now, the 2003 TMNT games across the 03 one and Battle Nexus and Mutant Nightmare all had one through line, and that was just run around these zones, beating up enemies, getting upgrades, getting a couple of collectibles, rerunning those levels maybe. And what you have here in Mutants Unleashed is a very similar structure. You're going to run through very linear set camera perspective sections of the game. And then there are going to be moments where, just like Persona 5, they're going to say, hey, you got 8 days till your next mission. And so you're going to go around and hang out with people in the Ninja Turtle world. We'll get into the writing and the relationships and that sort of thing in just a moment. No, it's not like a dating sim, but I'll get into my own thoughts in a moment. But if I'm looking at it as a TMNT fan, just really a gaming enthusiast in general, it's really cool that this exists. It's awesome because Persona is such a complex franchise. Metaphor is very complex. And while this isn't the sprawling set of activities, like the Ninja Turtles are going to be cooking at night, and that means I'm going to miss out on this activity during the day that I could have otherwise done and maxed out a social link. It's very simple. You know, these don't have moments where you're going to choose what dialogue options give you more points. It's just hang out with someone and you unlock upgrades by hanging out with them. But I love them kind of planting the seed, because they're going to be kids who play this game and they're going to say, man, not only was that awesome, but they're going to see something like Persona and go, oh my gosh, it's more of that thing that I experienced as a kid. And I just think that's really cool, that idea, because that happened to me, right? I would play Knights of the Old Republic and I'd see more games doing role-playing mechanics, and I know that's a more common thing nowadays, but I would see that and that would draw me to more games. So I love the idea that this Ninja Turtle game, which is going to reach a much younger audience, and I'm sitting here almost 30 years old talking about it, but whatever, that's what you're here for. You know, I'm always here for TMNT, if you couldn't tell by the arcade cabinet and the action figures. I always have Raphael on the controller if no one's paying attention to that. Damn you. But nonetheless, yeah, like, I think this is really great for the youth. They get shoveled a lot of crap in the terms of mobile games, and you can see a level of effort and care and love here. And that's not really what I anticipated when we heard about a tie-in movie game, right? We know where the standards, especially for those of you who grew up around my time period of the 90s and early 2000s, of what a tie-in video game means. They're exceedingly rare nowadays, but to get one that ties into the movie, kind of continues it, and is handled with a level of care like this is awesome to see, because I think these are the types of games that kids should be getting, right? This is a $40 game and it's really simple, but it's also got a lot of cool, unique mechanics that can then branch out to other games that these kids can enjoy when they're older. And I just think that's awesome as an enthusiast and as a TMNT fan. Now, with all of that said, the critique sets in for those of you who are like me and you can't help yourself. You see TMNT and you just got to buy it up. Is this sort of thing worth your time and attention? I'll say this, as you can tell by the movie, it's geared toward a audience of teenager and younger, and the writing really does represent that. It doesn't cut deep in these social link moments, we'll call them, where you're bonding with people. The deepest I really saw it go was Raphael went swimming to blow off some steam, and he met someone who had an amputated leg, and he commented on it, and the individual who had the amputated leg had actually felt kind of thankful for that, and Raph understood that and said, well, yeah, like, as a mutant, like, sometimes people just look at me funny, and I feel like just addressing it outright is the better thing to do. And it was an interesting, deep conversation, but the dialogue didn't really give it a lot of room to breathe and build that sort of intimate moment that I think the game is looking for. And I'm a little harsher on that because I did just play Splintered Fate, and as I showed in that review, man, the writing in that game is phenomenal, and I think it's great for all ages. And I think sometimes people look at kids games products and go like, well, it's simple, it's for kids. But I look at, as a random example, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm like, that is a for all ages show that you can extract a lot of value of. Or if you want to go even simpler than that, SpongeBob is just, to me, comedic brilliance, and just how much you can extract out of that as an adult, but also as a kid, how stupid and funny it was too. So I don't really bail this one out on having surface level writing. I think it could have done a little bit more, but mechanically speaking, I just love what they're going for here. I do love the music at times. When they go into that daily life system and you're walking around the lair, this is a fever dream for me. Persona is one of my favorite IP, and being able to just live in this TMNT world and not just constantly fighting it is something I've been asking for a while as a fan. It's really cool to go hang out with April, to go hang out with these other characters that I don't really know much about at all, and just see the Turtles existing, doing their thing. It's not always needing to be a beat 'em up, and I just found this so cool. In a lot of ways, the mechanic is a dream game idea for me. Because I've been getting into game development for these last few years, I sometimes just write down dream game ideas, like for Fallout. My other favorite franchises, Ninja Turtles is one of them, and in my Ninja Turtles dream game idea, this was one of the mechanics I thought would be really cool, is the Ninja Turtles creating bonds but also with one another, which you really don't see here. I wish they kind of went into that direction, but it's really just hanging out with side characters. But as you hang out with them, you're gonna get, as you win in Persona, these upgrades. You're gonna unlock new moves. Like one time I hung out with April and I unlocked this ability to scan for like Mutants in certain rooms, and they were pretty much collectibles that you could get. I didn't like how they handled the collecting of it. You would just kind of bring up your phone and just ping around the room, and it didn't really direct you super well as to where exactly this Mutant was. But it is a thing there, and so you're just unlocking stuff as you're progressing in the game. Spending time with these individuals will also unlock brand new moves. Now, it's not like you pick one turtle and you go and just hang out with everyone individually and have different interactions. That's another place I feel like they kind of scaled back the effort on, and that they could have done more with the game. Because when I'm playing it, let's say I'm running around as Leo, who's typically you're playing as when you're in this daily life gameplay, you'll actually switch to Raph when you're hanging out with Emily at the pool. So it switches between them all, and they all have their own dedicated relationships. And I do wish they maybe tried to see how different turtles would interact with different characters. All of these social links go 5 ranks, and you're going to want to try to max them all out. And the game gives you plenty of time to hit all of these before your next mission. So it's not, again, as tight as Persona, but I think that's okay, because I, again, treat this as baby's first Persona. If I were to draw a line between something, I think of Paper Mario. Like, Paper Mario is the perfect baby's first RPG, right? If you can play Mario, you can play Paper Mario, and that can get people into RPGs and then branch them to other titles in the genre. So I think it's important that a game like this does exist, especially in a license like Ninja Turtles, that's going to bring a lot of younger fans into gaming, really. So yeah, I just had to get a lot of that off my chest. Like, the social gameplay aspect is really cool that it exists. I know it's a Ninja Turtle game, and there is combat to talk about. There is art style to talk about that I have some thoughts on, but I just, like, at first I was kind of clowning on the game in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling this. But then this social gameplay happened. I went, this is really cool. So I feel like I've gotten that point across a number of times already. It's not perfect, but just from, like, to me, the pure TMNT fascination of it all, I'm really digging that aspect of the game. Now, it is also partially a combat video game. And so most of your time will be spent running around and beating up enemies. The camera does this weird screen shake when you're fighting enemies, and it is so disorienting and frustrating. And I did early in the game try to go into the options and see if this is something that I could turn off. Unfortunately, you cannot, and I found that to be a bit of a bummer, because yeah, I'm losing enemies on screen. It's just shaking rapidly as I'm fighting enemies, and it's really distracting, and it honestly sucks because the combat is pretty good. Like, there's a focus on parrying and dodging, and you really have good movement as you're zipping around the enemies. There's even great environmental movement where you can wall run, you can use your skateboard and grind up and down rails to get around some of these levels, which you never fully use because the levels are not big enough to justify it. And that's the most exciting premise of this game. I look at the social gameplay, I look at the exploration, and I think, man, okay, I hope this does well, because they can come back to this and do it much bigger and much better and really go all in on some of the ideas here. But they're there and they feel good. The combat is simple in that there's a light attack and a heavy attack. You're not really going to be switching it up too much. You can call in other turtles for assist attacks, and you can also pick in the beginning of these levels which turtle you want to play as. So as you're going through the social gameplay and you're getting all of these different attack upgrades, combos, etc., you can pick what turtle you play as to open those levels up. You can also play this in co-op, which is really cool. I didn't have the opportunity to test that out, but it is something that you can do in this game if you're looking to play it alongside a friend. So it does still have that TMNT aspect. But a lot of this stuff where you're running around these levels and collecting graffiti or collecting some of the Omni canisters, it reminded me a lot of my time spent with the 2003 TMNT games. And I have to pull myself out of my critique of how these turtles look and how they talk, and just look at it objectively speaking and go, you know, when I was a kid playing the 2003 TMNT games, this was like the coolest thing to me. I adored it so much. And this game does have a similar framework to those titles of running from level to level, exploring them, getting collectibles. Like, pretty much the crystals that you would get in Mutant Nightmare is pretty much the same thing that you get in these Omni canisters that you'll find littered about the levels. So it's just really cool to see the parallels there and how closely they're paying attention. The presentation's also pretty solid. Like, you'll see cut-ins such as you would in Persona, where they'll slash to the middle of the screen when combat's about to start. The portrait work, the dialogue box, the time of day, everything looks really good. Like, artistically, this is a great looking game. I love how creative they got based on the movie with how they did even like background pieces, which just looked like someone was sketching crayon all over the place. And that kind of works when you think about it being more kid friendly, more kid geared. It kind of tunes in pretty well artistically to the teenage spirit of the movie and of the game in turn. So I really do like the art style and the art direction in that manner. The execution is really good. On a personal preference level, I can't stand how the turtles look. I can't stand how almost anyone looks. I think April looks cool, but I think Master Splinter looks gross. I think the turtles look awful. Some of the voices outside of Leonardo, I can't. Like, I'm being real with y'all. It's not good at all as far as I'm concerned. And it's not just like a game thing, although there is Michelangelo who just, like, his sounds in combat, I refuse to play as him because of it. Like, and I'm usually not that stubborn. I know I'm going to give off a lot of stubborn TMNT fan energy, a lot of shouting at the cloud, oh, Maddie embraced the new age. I'm telling y'all, like, there's just moments it's not good at all. And it just does not set the tone or excite me quite like playing Splintered Fate. And I know there's a big gap. We're talking about like Yuri Lowenthal as Michelangelo versus I don't know who's voicing Michelangelo in this, but it's for a specific audience. So I'm trying to just pull myself out of that. But just to make sure people are aware, like, yeah, I can't stand the art direction of these turtles, and I cannot stand the voice direction either. I don't think it's very good at all. But in the terms of like the art style and the execution of it, really good stuff. So yeah, this game is really a mixed bag for me. If I pull myself out of it and look at it fairly, for $40, you're getting a great baby's first Persona game. And my view on these current era of turtles aside, which I feel like since the 2007 movie, I've just been cursed between I can't stand the 2012 design, I cannot stand what Michael Bay did, I cannot stand this new era of turtles. I'm like, I like the Tails Ninja Turtles. Like, give me a great IDW driven visual series and I will lose my mind. But my whining aside, you pull that out of it, I look at the game fairly, I go, you know what? There is something here. For you diehard TMNT fans who are older, like myself even, and you're looking at this going, should I pick this up? I would steer you more toward Splintered Fate. I feel like that'll vibe well with others. But if you're like a parent looking to play this with a kid, perfect game for that. Perfect game for that. It's actually really cool in that regard, especially with the co-op support. Or if you're a parent buying the game for your kid, this one does get the Maddie seal of approval on that level. And I think that's really important to point out because I've reviewed a lot of games on this channel like Avatar Quest for Balance, which fortunately is one of our most popular videos on the channel because I said in that video, it's a complete scam for kids who want to go buy the new Avatar game because Avatar is popular and it's a cheap ripoff. And honestly, this doesn't give me that vibe. It's not perfect. It's not the best thing you'll ever play. It's flawed. But for a kid's game, I think they do a really good job. And as a TMNT fan, I do feel respected even if I'm not a fan of the direction of the turtles themselves. So yeah, kind of a surprising game. And again, I can't get over the social gameplay. To kind of put a bow on it, I'll just say that's what I look forward to most of this game. It's not the combat, it's not the fighting, it's really the dialogue, it's really the socializing. And I hope more Ninja Turtle games embrace that element because it's just so cool. And this is also nice to see that it's not another Ninja Turtle game about time travel. Like even Splintered Fate is a bit guilty of that. So narratively, it kind of separates itself. I think they did a pretty good job here with this game. And so I've been having fun with it, I gotta say. And so yeah, if you're a parent looking to buy your kid a new TMNT game, this might be a good option. I'll just say Splintered Fate's kind of go to, but Splintered Fate is also very difficult. So you have the split on audiences and what these games are for. So those are my thoughts on TMNT Mutants Unleashed. Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to getting your thoughts down below. Are you picking this one up? I'm very curious to see your thoughts. I know I've interacted with TMNT fans enough. People are gonna implore me to give this new era a chance. I will one day, but I just need to, especially as they're playing this game, I'm just like, I need to just really like rinse myself clean of the voice and artistic direction and reset and go at it one more time. So when that time comes, I'll give it another chance. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.